It is Saturday, April the 27th. We are on iHeartRadio, WVON 1690. Our call in number, we want everybody to know that, is 312-374-8130. And America's Heroes Group Roundtable Veterans Court with attorney Lori Roper. And we are so pleased to have her here in the studio. How are you, Counselor?
I am well. How are you, Mr. Kelly?
I am doing very well. I know that people like you are going to take care of all of the veterans and so forth, and we certainly need your help. In addition to that, we are also joined by Judge Michael Hood. The judge is a felony judge in the 2nd Municipal District of Skokie, Illinois. And he has such a great background, not only all the things he's done as a judge and as an attorney, but Judge Hood served on active duty through the rank of Major in the United States Marine Corps. He served in a variety of positions, including criminal defense counsel, prosecutor, and staff judge advocate. And he was deployed twice. And we're just so pleased to have him. If I read about all the other things he's done, we wouldn't have time to talk. How are you, Judge? How you doing?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me, Mr. Kelly.
Hey, listen, it's a pleasure, Judge. We just appreciate you. This is such an important thing relative to Veterans Court. And, Judge, you want to start off telling us about that, please?
Sure. I think the issues we have all over the county, all over the country, some of the issues we have with everyone, homelessness, drug abuse, unemployment, unfortunately, the intersection of those is often the criminal justice system. And when a veteran falls into that criminal justice system, the Veterans Court is a place where we can try to solve the problem. In Cook County, we have several Veterans Courts. There's one in each of the districts, and there's one downtown at 26th and Cal. It's a place where we'll take a nonviolent offender, and when we get them into the court, they're assessed by the VA. We're a dual diagnosis, so often it's a mental health and or a drug abuse issue. And we'll do a veterans court, strike that. I think I'm in court. Excuse me. We'll use the Veterans Administration, the VA, to make an assessment, to do an assessment of the veteran and come up with a plan. And then over the next 2 years, that veteran will work that plan. And at the end, if he's successful, he graduates. And more important than graduation, oftentimes our goal is for him to be clean, sober, and back where he was when he was an honorably serving military member, kind of put them back in that time frame or that place in their life.
That makes such a difference. It certainly does. And, of course, we're so pleased to have the consular here, Lori Roper, who is the attorney supervisor of Veterans Court here at 26th in California.
Yes.
So happy to have you here again.
Thank you. Judge Hood, we're very familiar with each other. We've actually worked with each other before, and he's the right judge for the job. I appreciate the fact that he is in court in Skokie and that our veterans are in good hands when they appear before him. Judge Hood, do you think there are any particular issues that are maybe unique for that geographical area of Skokie or perhaps just that different clientele?
Well, we in the Veterans Court, the common denominator is they're a veteran. So we get the wide variety of individuals. I think the common denominator we have is it's a drug abuse issue in a lot of the veterans we get. We have men and women, all races. We have everybody, and one of the common denominators, unfortunately, is the drug addiction issue.
Yeah, and do you? One thing that you stated was that the veterans have to be charged with non-violent felonies. Do you believe or do you think that maybe at some point that might be revisited, such as perhaps if a veteran is arrested and charged with having or possessing a gun, do you think that at some point that might change or maybe revisited?
Yeah, I think that's evolving. I mean, if you think back just a few, Veterans Court in Cook County came about it started in 2009, 2010, and it's evolved since then. And I anticipate, or I can see it evolving further. I think when you have a crime with a victim or a violent crime, there are more interests in the mix. So it may be harder for a victim to get on board with something that would appear, or without a proper explanation, may appear as kind of a probation and the case goes away type offense, and that's not what Veterans Court's all about at all. But I can see it evolving into that. Right now, it's nonviolent by statute.
So if there is a vet where there is violence, you're saying that the Veterans Court would not be appropriate for that?
It's not.
Okay.
Now there have been cases where there's been an individual charged with a violent crime, combat veteran from maybe the Afghanistan time frame, and the state's attorney's office has been able to reach out to the victim in the case, and the victim has acquiesced to a Veterans Court type treatment, and then maybe the case that would actually be charged with a Veterans Court would be a lesser included type offense. With the acquiescence of the victim, it's happened.
Does that happen here in Cook, Attorney Roper?
It can happen, as Judge Hood just said. Again, the state's attorney's office brings the charges, so they would have to be thoroughly on board. And one of the things that would allow them to be on board would be to have a victim agree, because again, they are representing the people of the state of Illinois, but they are really there to make sure the victim is made whole. So, of course, if the victim is acquiescing or agreeing to an alternative resolution, or for this person to go to Veterans Court, for example, that would be definitely something that can be done, because the state's attorney's office would have to agree and
Sure.
make the charges.
How is that determination? How is that determination made, either of you, as to whether it goes, if there is something that someone has done, a felony, that, is a veteran, how is it determined whether it goes to Veterans Court or not?
Well, from my standpoint, what happens is the case comes into bond court, and a lot of times, like with our assistants, with assistant public defenders, and particularly with assistant state's attorneys, it is they review the cases to see whether or not this person is a veteran. Some veterans do self-report. They will let the assistant public defender who is interviewing them for bond court let them know that they are a veteran, and that's one way it can be flagged. Sometimes the police may even speak to that particular individual and find out then that person's a veteran, and they will check that box on their particular police report. So that's a way for us to know as well. Unfortunately, sometimes cases go through bond court, they get a bond, that person is assigned to a trial courtroom. And what happens is that the assistant at that level, even assistant state's attorney or even an assistant public defender, may realize at that point that person is a veteran, and that case can still be reviewed to be screened to see whether or not that person is eligible to be in a veterans court.
Okay. Judge, is that...
And we will.
Yeah,
we,
go
we'll,
right ahead.
We'll take a veteran anytime. Lori's absolutely right. We worked together for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't identify them quick enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of ways. In addition to the bond hearing, now the new bond form actually has that check mark on there, that box to check. And the other great place where they're often identified is if they do go to Cook County Jail, they're often identified in processing, because there's a Cook County Jail Veterans Court deck, an area where veterans can stay in the jail, and a lot of times they're identified there.
So in a bond hearing then, if the person, the accused, is not identified as a veteran, it can happen at a later date?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it does all the time, Mr. Kelly. Someone will come up to me in the hall and say, hey, I was just in a courtroom, and that guy's a veteran, and he's in custody. How do I go about Veterans Court? And then I put him right in touch with the public defender and the state's attorney who run the Veterans Court up in Skokie, and they start pulling his records and checking into his discharge and his time in service and start working through that issue.
Now, his record in the service, does that have anything to do with whether he's, uh,
Well, we can take we
you know
can
what I'm
take.
saying?
I do. I
Right.
know exactly what you're saying, especially since I served.
Sure, I know you have. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So we don't take a dishonorably discharged
Okay.
veteran.
Yeah.
We look to take honorably discharged, but there's no combat veteran requirement. And we've actually taken some with administrative discharges. So an individual with a general or even sometimes an other than honorable discharge, if if something happened to them while they're in the service and then that carried over into their civilian life, we've looked at that and we've taken some of those individuals. And that's more of a case by case basis, but we've done it.
That's interesting. We're so pleased to be.
It's really helpful.
Oh, yeah,
to that
absolutely. It's
individual.
very helpful. We're talking about Veterans Court with two experts on it. We are pleased to have Attorney Lori Roper with us, Attorney Supervisor, Veterans Court, 26 in California, and also Judge Michael Hood, felony judge in the Second Municipal District of Skokie, Illinois, and he's got a great service record also himself. Our number is 312-374-8130. If anybody has a question, this is important. And also it's important because a lot of people have, I know some who have family members who have had some PTSD problems and so forth, and I'm sure that, I don't know exactly what the disposition was, but hopefully they were able to take advantage of this because I think it's a great thing. Judge, you mentioned that it started back in 2009, the drug abuse court. That's something I'm sure is a lot of problems with drug abuse with the veterans.
Well, the drug court actually started in 1999.
Oh, in 99, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the Veterans Court started in 2009, but the
Yeah,
drug
the Veterans Court in 2009.
yeah, each of the districts have a drug court, a mental health court, and a Veterans Court, and as well as 26 in Cal, where it's very similar in that it's a phase-based probationary period where they're given options to get treatment. So whether it's inpatient or outpatient treatment, the goal is to rehabilitate and help those with that illness as opposed to incarcerate.
That's great, Laura.
There's these specialty courts that Lori works with. They're a great way to work the criminal justice system. And the results, some of the results and Lori can talk about this too. I've seen people come in, Mr. Kelly, they're on death's door, whether it's an opioid or whether it's alcohol or whether it's just living on the street homeless. And after 2 years, they are different people. They are back, members of society, contributing members, and the transformation is amazing. And you'd be welcome to come to any one of our graduations anytime and see it for yourself as a veteran. We'd roll out the red carpet for you.
I love that. I'm going to take advantage. That's wonderful. You're doing a better job than some folks who just have problems, get locked up, aren't veterans, but get locked up for drug abuse. And we see so many instances where those are repeaters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, every now and then you may have a veteran return. He may relapse is a part of recovery, and you do have veterans that do relapse, and they can come back. I mean, as long as it's a nonviolent crime, they can come back. And as a matter of fact, Judge Hood and other judges like him, normally at graduation, they encourage the veterans to maintain contact and actually, if they really need help, to literally come to court, literally walk into their courtrooms and tell them they really need some help now. And
it's open door. We re-engage with them as often as we can.
That's great. So you're doing a whole lot more than just advising them legally. That's
and Lori we can talk about this. It's a different type of court. So we staff this, and we have a public defender and a state's attorney and a probation officer and a veterans justice officer from the VA, as well as myself. And we talk about those cases before we go into court. So we spend a great deal of time working with that file and that individual, and then we go out and spend some time talking to him at the bench. So it's not the typical come up, get a court date, and leave. We engage with that individual, and there's a lot of studies about if the longer you can engage or deal with the real issues that the person has, even at the bench, the results are better. I mean, I know I know the veterans in my court well. I know them well. I know their backgrounds. I know their family histories. I know the things that are triggering offenses for them. And I've got a guy right now who's got some issues with his father, and it's caused him a great deal of stress, and we're really worried that that's going to affect him. So we spent on Friday at Veterans Court a lot of time with him, talking to him about who he's going to reach out to if he feels the need to go down the illegal drug use path that he'd been on. And he's done a great job, but this is a tough weekend for him.
Do we have any statistics, Judge or Counselor, about the recidivism rates as compared to this sort of court for veterans and regular criminal courts? Because it seems as though you folks just do a great job to a much greater degree than regular court does or could even afford to do, maybe,
And I think it's time and it's money.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on a recidivist number now, but I could probably get that for you down the road. I can tell you this: the graduation rate for the average graduation rate from all the districts in Cook County is around 65 to 70%, maybe a little over 70. I think we're at Skokie's 68. And so that means for 2 years they've done some remarkable things. After that, I think I'd have to get to the county and a bigger group to find out how they've done past that.
Judge, some of our listeners may not know when you say graduation rate. Tell us what graduation is.
Well, so when an individual is in Veterans Court, at the end of the culmination of this 2-year period of probation or intensive services that are provided through the VA and the court system, they graduate. They graduate, and their case, in many cases, can be expunged. Their case can be dismissed in many cases. So they literally graduate with a clean record. Our graduations, we have a variety of people come. Quilts of Valor participates in our graduation, where a group that makes quilts for individuals who arrive home from foreign lands. They put these quilts on these veterans, like at Walter Reed, and when they arrive at O'Hare, they've talked to us and we've talked to them, and so they come to our graduation. So our graduation ceremony is more than just you finished. It's a kind of a rebirth back to where they were when they were honorably serving the country.
That's amazing.
And I'll tell you, we can't do enough for these men and women. I firmly believe they wrote a blank check payable up into including for their life, and we should do everything we can to help them. We owe them.
I just think that's wonderful. Laura, tell graduation rates.
Well,
do we have that here?
You know what? As Judge Hood said, he pretty much put it out there. I think they're at about 68% or so in Skokie. The numbers change so much. I would have to make sure that I have the exact numbers for the next show. But again, the veterans that come through these courts are really getting some real hands-on services, and Judge Hood and other judges like him are saving lives. They're really saving lives, and they're changing lives. These young men and women are coming back, and some of them are really going through a lot.
Sure.
But once they come into our court, it's not easy. I mean, can you imagine going in front of Major Hood?
Yeah, no kidding.
So you can imagine
easy,
it's
right?
not easy.
It shouldn't be easy.
What do you say, Judge?
Difficult. It shouldn't be easy. It should be difficult. And
Yeah.
There should be a real sense of accomplishment at the end. If it were easy, that wouldn't be it wouldn't work. There's a real sense of accomplishment when they finish this.
Yeah, I think Laura is funny when she says Major Hood, and particularly a Marine.
Yeah, well, Lori and I have known each other a long time.
Yes, but I will say this about Major Judge Hood. He is definitely a gentleman, and he is very, very conscientious. Whether he was being a prosecutor and now being a judge, he is very conscientious. He is very He's stern, but he's fair, and I've always experienced that with him. So when I saw that he was doing the vet call in Skokie, I was very happy. I was very excited for the individuals that will appear before him, because again, these are fellow vets who could relate, and he can relate to them. So
Sure.
I feel that really helps.
And, it's amazing because I've heard only good things about you, Judge. Notwithstanding, you made just a slight error and selected the wrong service. But other than that, I'm kidding you. You know that.
I do, and I appreciate your service. I really do.
And I feel the same way for you, of you. That is just great. Yeah, we always have to play that. That's good. This whole thing is just so great, and I just hope that this is what America's Heroes Group is all about, Judge and Consular, trying to let people, because a lot of folks have no idea about this, and they need to know about it. And, there are family members, there are friends, there are other people who let folks know about these sort of things. And, I don't know how many of these wonderful veteran courts exist in other places, but we are certainly fortunate to have it here. And
I agree. It's forums like yours that allow people to learn about it, so we can fill up those courtrooms with people and help those folks.
That's right. And then when you talk about what is done and how it helped, and then to have a graduation, and please invite me, because I'd really like to come to one of the graduations.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Lori knows.
Yes, he will.
You'll be invited, and you'll be welcome at any graduation we have. And I know you're busy, but
oh no, I'll take time for that. I think that's great.
And they usually have great graduations up in Skokie. I think they have cake and food and everything.
Well, we used to, but
she's tempting me. Oh, that's great. I just think that's just such a great thing that is happening. Judge, tell us what we need to know before we let you go.
Well, I think the thing that people should know is that the Veterans Court exists, and if a veteran becomes involved in the criminal justice system, the first thing they should do is reach out to their lawyer and let their lawyer know that there's a Veterans Court in Cook County, and let that lawyer to get on it. That lawyer will know how to get a hold of me or a Lori Roper or a PD in the Skokie Courthouse, and that's what needs to get to get the ball rolling, and then we'll take it from there.
Judge, I want to thank you so much. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to meeting with you. All right?
I do too, and thanks very much for having me, and Lori, thanks so much for having me as well.
It's a pleasure.
No problem.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, now, thank you. Laura, you finish this up. What else do we need to know?
Well,
you're there. You see this all the time.
Everyone needs to know again that these courts exist throughout Cook County, and so these services are available for veterans in every district of Cook County. So again, we need to make sure that we are letting folks know that this is an alternative. This is a life-changing alternative for them, and we have to get the word out. And I'm so glad that America's Heroes Group is allowing me to assist in getting that word out, and of course getting a chance to sit with you, Mr. Kelly. I can't think of anything more.
Well, I tell you, we just appreciate you, and I'm honored to have you here. And the information, Consular, that you have put out earlier, that's why we wanted you back, because we had a lot of folks who wanted to know more about this, because a lot of folks don't even know it exists, and that's what is great.
Yeah, no, and you're right. They don't know, and again, I mean, no one can get the word out quite like America's Heroes Group. No one can get the word out, and I feel like this is it. This is going, for us to be on the radio talking about it, for this to be on Facebook. Everyone, if you know someone, just spread the word.
Consular, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. That is just great. America's Heroes Group gets out great information because we have great people like Attorney Lori Roper and Judge Michael Hood. Stay with us. We'll be back.